They found the planet by accident. The scout vessel Rilvan 73, charting unclaimed fringe systems, logged the initial data passively. A rich, blue sphere swirling with storms, orbiting a yellow star. One moon, no visible orbital infrastructure. Natural satellite belts showed signs of minimal debris, likely meteoric, not manufactured. Environmental scans came next. What returned was a red flag diagnostic overload. Gravity 9.8 meters per square second, higher than average. Atmospheric oxygen saturation, lethal by most species standards. Temperatures fluctuated wildly, seasonally and regionally. The biosphere, densely populated with predatory life forms. Apex carnivores walked on land, flew in the skies, and hunted in oceans. Plants produced toxins as a defense mechanism. Microbial pathogens mutated rapidly. Ecosystem, high competition, high mortality. Surface, tectonically unstable. A death world. That alone should have ended the report. Class, 9 death worlds were labeled red zones for a reason. Species from such planets rarely survived their own evolutionary chaos. Even rarer were those who survived and reached civilization. None had ever reached space. But there was more. Radio signals. Weak but organized. Regular waveforms, mathematical intervals, unmistakable signs of intelligence. Some broadcast frequencies matched ancient galactic standards. Faint echoes of what could only be described as music, code, speech. Translations failed, but the syntactic regularity was undeniable. Someone on that hellish world was talking. The ship's AI considered quarantine protocol. The data packet was transmitted to Central Union Intelligence. Weeks later, an emergency summit was called. The Union, a sprawling interspecies alliance governing 3 arms of the spiral galaxy, convened on neutral ground. For the first time in 3 centuries, representatives of all dominant member species attended in person, a new sapient race. From a death world, early debates centered on classification. They called themselves humans, bipedal, endothermic, carbon-based, oxygen breathers. No natural armor, no claws, no scales, poor night vision, no exoskeletons. Fragile, but the reports didn't align with the physiology. Their technology was primitive, yet ingenious. No gravimetric drives, but they had pierced their own atmosphere. No faster-than-light travel, yet they had landed on their moon. No unifying planetary government, yet they coordinated thousands of satellites. No biological enhancement, yet individuals exhibited physical feats beyond species of similar form. And worst of all, they were still in conflict. Constant war for thousands of years. Not for food, not for territory, often not even for survival. War was culture. Despite the red flags, the diplomatic corps advocated for immediate contact. Some wanted containment, others suppression. But a faction of idealists won the vote. The humans would be approached, offered guidance, brought into the fold. Peacefully, the vessel chosen was the Valerian Spear, a diplomatic envoy craft equipped with shielding, translation matrices, and a delegation of 12 species. Non-threatening in design, bright in color, carrying cultural artifacts and peace emblems. It landed outside a rural human settlement under the cover of darkness, initiating the contact protocol. Harmless emissions projected a calm tone. Lights signaled a greeting. The ship's hull opened to reveal the envoys, carefully selected to appear as non-threatening and peaceful. Then came the screaming. The humans responded with firearms, projectiles propelled by chemical explosions. Loud, imprecise, primitive, but devastating. 2 envoys were killed instantly, a third injured by shrapnel. Retreat orders were issued, but too late. The humans approached with tools, not weapons, axes, spades, knives, not soldiers, farmers, builders, children. The aliens fell back inside the ship. The humans followed. One diplomat, Zyro the Silveran, recorded the chaos in his final moments. A human, bleeding from a gash across the stomach, held him down while another broke his translator device with a stone. The human leaned in close and growled words the AI could not translate, then crushed Zyro's skull underfoot. The The ship lifted off, damaged and in disarray. Half the crew missing or dead. The council convened again. It was no longer a question of contact. It was containment. Experts analyzed the engagement. There had been no misunderstanding. The humans acted with instinctive precision. They moved in coordinated lines. They flanked. They created distractions. They feigned injury. These were not panicked civilians. They were a war-ready population. Medical analysis came next. The survivors, though severely injured, had to be sedated with 4 times the standard tranquilizer dose. Their hearts beat through shock. One had cauterized his own wound with a piece of hot metal. Another, unconscious, still fought reflexively against restraints. Their bodies pumped cortisol and adrenaline in lethal quantities. Yet they survived. Internal systems featured redundancies. 2 lungs, 2 kidneys, a backup circulatory route in the leg, bone density off the charts, pain thresholds absurdly high. They didn't collapse under injury. They adapted. Worse, their brain scans revealed something deeply disturbing. Their threat perception was inverted. Humans didn't flee at overwhelming odds. They advanced. Their psychological profiles rewarded risk. Some even exhibited euphoria under life-threatening stress. The data was reclassified. Humans were not a developing species. They were an apex predator in a biosphere filled with monsters. And now, they were climbing toward the stars. The Council's ruling was swift. Humanity was to be isolated. A defensive blockade erected in Sol System. Observation drones were deployed. Earth was labeled a black zone. Contact prohibited. For a time, the order held, until the signals resumed. New ones encrypted. A station near Saturn reported an anomaly, a large metal object, not Union design, accelerating beyond known safe parameters. No known drive signature. Triangular hull, emitting massive heat and radiation. Its trajectory, Proxima Station. It struck the outer hull at 14% light speed, rammed straight through reinforced alloy plating. Not a missile, a piloted craft. No survivors on either side. Recovered fragments included partial hull inscriptions, Earth Standard letters, painted in white across a black surface. USS Schulman. No known registry. No known builder. More would follow. Smaller crafts. Drones. Some obviously retrofitted from civilian hardware. Construction equipment repurposed for vacuum combat. Duct-taped armor. Spinning saw blades attached to maneuverable tugs. Remote piloted bomb pods using compressed gas thrusters. Nothing standard. Nothing clean. Everything a weapon. The Council demanded answers. Surveillance probe sent. What they found chilled the core of every attending species. Earth was mobilizing. Nation-states had fallen silent. Military installations had gone dark. A moon base previously considered abandoned was now crawling with human activity. Factories ran day and night. Nuclear reactors powered underground cities. Satellites disappeared from orbit. And above all, no communication. No explanation. No response to Union hails. Just silence. Until one message was intercepted from deep space. We received your message. We responded as we always do. Prepare accordingly. The first human colony outside their solar system was not announced. It was discovered. A patrol frigate monitoring the neutral zone near El Tari Drift detected irregular energy readings. Upon investigation, they found a spherical habitat, partially buried in an asteroid, radiating heat and emissions inconsistent with any known Union construction protocols. Interior scans showed living organisms, oxygen breathers. A landing team entered. They encountered no resistance. What they did find was a fully functional habitat, with human life signs and advanced environmental controls. The design was inefficient by galactic standards, rough, raw metal, visible wiring, but it worked. More startling was the presence of a fully operational reactor core using refined thorium, a power source not seen in 200 galactic cycles. There were 27 humans living there. No defense system, no communication relay, no distress beacon. When questioned, the humans replied that they didn't know they weren't supposed to be there. that no one had told them not to. One of them simply said, "We got bored." The Union labeled it a violation. The humans shrugged. The asteroid was marked as quarantined. The humans didn't leave. Instead, they expanded. 2 more habitats were discovered within the year. One inside a derelict mining tunnel on Cherokfor, another repurposing the wreckage of an ancient Olari battleship. The humans were converting anything and everything into shelters, stations, colonies. No approval, no permits, just function over form. It became clear they were colonizing by squatting. Union Command ordered all unauthorized human installations to be dismantled. Enforcement began immediately. But each attempt was met with fierce resistance, not from soldiers, but from colonists, civilians with construction tools, explosive rigs, and improvised weapons. A mining laser was converted into a defensive turret. A life support pipe system was used to flood boarding crews with high-pressure oxygen, rupturing their suits. These were not trained combatants, but they knew their environments better than any invader. Surveillance showed strange rituals. Human children as young as 5 being taught to aim projectile weapons. Simulations run at all hours. Zero-G combat drills. Urban siege tactics practiced in the corridors of their own homes. Their entertainment systems played old Earth war footage. Not fictional simulations, but real historical battles. It was soon realized humanity had never stopped waging war. They had simply redirected it inward. Every generation trained through proxy. Through games, through stories, through simulations that taught not just strategy, but a culture of confrontation. What the Union called horror, the humans called Tuesday. A pattern emerged. Human colonies followed no logic. One near a neutron star, too close to be safe. Another beneath a sulfuric storm front on a gas giant moon. They were not avoiding danger. They were seeking it. Environments lethal to most life were playgrounds for humanity. Union research institutions began studying archived human media. They were horrified by what they found. Entire game industries built around war. Virtual scenarios where players engage in tactics, sabotage, psychological warfare. From age 3, humans were introduced to conflict as a challenge to be mastered. Sports simulated battlefield mechanics. Board games taught supply lines, encirclement morale-breaking. Competitive frameworks were training grounds. Even fictional narratives glorified survival under impossible odds. Their greatest heroes weren't the peace brokers. They were the ones who stood alone against the swarm, outnumbered, wounded, defiant. It was not just their soldiers who knew war. It was their culture. Union war colleges had no answer. Their best tacticians were trained in logic trees, algorithms, doctrine. But humans used none of that. They adapted, improvised, broke rules if needed. And worse, they smiled while doing it. One simulation pitted a veteran Olari strategist against a human military student from Earth's Saturn Defense Academy. The exercise was to last 20 simulated hours. It ended in 43 minutes. The Olari was defeated by tactics that should have failed. The human had sent a false signal pretending to defect, then used a data breach to overload the Olari's sensor systems. When asked how he knew it would work, the human said, "Because you're predictable." Union AI failed to process the pattern. Humans acted irrationally. They took unnecessary risks. Sometimes they walked directly into gunfire to close distance. Other times they fled only to return moments later from an unexpected angle. They faked injury, played dead, exploded their own ships to disable enemy scanners. This was not strategy. This was chaos weaponized. One analyst described it as malicious creativity. But worst of all, humanity didn't just survive war. They got better at it. Their combat veterans weren't broken. Many returned stronger, smarter, more connected to their units. Human resilience wasn't just biological. It was psychological. They turned trauma into teaching. Every failure became a training module. Every defeat a case study. In one incident, a Union patrol found a wrecked human freighter floating near Lyra Prime. No distress signal. No survivors, or so they believed. When they boarded, they were ambushed by corpses. Humans had painted themselves with coolant to mimic death. Heart rate slowed. Oxygen levels dropped to undetectable ranges. They held their breath for minutes, then rose when the borders reached the core. 6 dead Union operatives. 0 human casualties. The message left on the wall: check your assumptions. Even in death, humans trained to deceive. Psychological profiling of the average human soldier showed abnormally high levels of tolerance for ambiguity, disorder, and unpredictability. They thrived in environments where others broke. Given a structured command, they followed. Denied command, they created one. Stranded, they adapted. Cornered, they counterattacked. There was a term humans used often in their media: adapt, improvise, overcome. It wasn't just a slogan. It was doctrine. An elite Zorani strike team attempted to infiltrate a human outpost on Tekra 6. The plan was surgical. No casualties. Extract intel and vanish. What they encountered was a defensive structure rigged with thermal vents, decoy signals, and spiked corridors. The team was eliminated within an hour. One survivor crawled back with third-degree burns and described the humans as demons wearing skin. But the outpost had been civilian. Engineers. Technicians. They had no official military presence. The Council's fears escalated. Humanity was no longer a wild variable. It was an inevitability. Their numbers were increasing. Their settlements were expanding. And they weren't waiting for permission. They built first and dared others to stop them. One species tried.